Good morning, and welcome to the art and microbes part of TACoS. We're going to talk today about cyanotypes and photograms and things like that, and then you'll make some today if the weather's nice. So just wanted to jump right into it. You have a bag, a blue bag that has been given to you for this part of the class, and inside the bag are the following things. There is a black bag inside of that. Do not open that if you are outside or near a window or anything like that. Basically, don't open it until you need to. Inside that are a bunch of pieces of cloth that are cyanotype coated, meaning they are light sensitive, and that's what we'll be using for most of our projects today or throughout this week. You'll also find a sheet of plexiglass. It might have a cover on it. And I'm going to go over this a little bit later in the video and show you actually what these things are, but I just wanted to talk you through them real quick. Have some construction paper, some scissors, some clear acetate, transparency material, and a dry eraser marker. So we'll go through all of those in a little bit and talk about them. You'll also need to gather a couple things of your own to help out with this. The most important is some sort of piece Tupperware or bucket, something that you can fill with water and place outside in a nice shady area. It doesn't have to be that big. You'll just be putting the cloth in it, and you can crumple the cloth up, and I'll show you what that looks like later in this video. Also a piece of wood or cardboard, maybe a little bit bigger than like 9 by 9 inches, so about this big or so, would be very useful. You'll use that to build your cyanotype photograms on. You'll need a water source, obviously, to fill the Tupperware. Could just be a sink or a faucet outside. And you'll need the sun. So I'm going to go through everything you need to do today, but if today happens to be for you a really cloudy, overcast day, I might recommend going and doing some of the other TACoS workshops projects first, and then coming back to this one on a beautiful sunny day. You can do this on a cloudy day. It just takes a lot longer. Everything takes much longer. Direct, beautiful sunlight is what you need for these processes. So moving ahead, what is a cyanotype? It's what we're going to be doing for this week. We'll be making cyanotypes. Cyanotype is a very old photographic process. We're talking around 1842 or so is when it was invented. Photography itself was invented in the late 1830s. So this is a little bit after the invention of the early photographic processes. It is iron-based. So most traditional photographic processes before digital cameras were invented were entirely silver-based. Basically, any type of metal you can make light sensitive. It just so happens that silver is more light sensitive than most other metals, meaning it's faster. It doesn't need as much light to make it change, and it's much more stable. Iron is also very stable, but it's not as fast as silver. It's a much slower one, meaning it needs a lot more light to change color. It also had a little bit of a downside compared to silver. Silver creates nice, beautiful black and white tones, whereas cyanotype, as you can tell from the name cyan, is blue. It is a blue print. On the other hand, it's really cheap. Iron is cheaper than silver. So it's much cheaper to create cyanotypes than it is to create silver-based prints. This is the chemical formula for what cyanotypes are made out of: potassium ferricyanide plus ferric ammonium citrate. That is the very complex formula. It's a very benign set of chemicals that you can purchase online. If you're really interested in this, you can show this to your parents, and they can find a cyanotype kit online very easily to make more of these images. So what was it used for? Why did people invent the cyanotype process? We had all these other photo processes. Why cyanotype? Cheapness is really the main thing. It was much more affordable than anything else. Early on, it was used for contact prints. By contact print, I mean someone would create a negative, a photographic negative with a camera, and then you just lay it onto a piece of cyanotype and make a positive out of it just to show you what it looked like. So it was a really cheap and fast way to work there. The most interesting use of it was as blueprints. So as you see here, this is a giant blueprint. This is how blueprints for buildings were made early on. They would make the drawing in black ink onto a clear piece of acetate, and then they would take that and they would put it onto a cyanotype sheet and expose it to the sun to create a negative print of the house or the building that you're using. So it's a very easy way to reproduce designs of buildings. So not quite used as much anymore, but the term blueprint still does stick around for it. So we've talked about cyanotypes. What we're going to be doing with cyanotypes are something called a photogram. So a photogram, and you see that it's photogram as opposed to photograph. If it was a photograph, it would be using a camera. That would be a drawing with light. A photogram is instead a print with light. What we'll be doing is taking objects and placing them directly onto our paper, or in this case, our cloth, and making silhouettes of them, making direct prints with the sun onto the paper. So photograms are negative because wherever the sun hits, it turns blue, it gets dark. And wherever the sun doesn't hit, it stays light, stays white, or in some of our cases, we'll have pink or blue or green paper. It's unique, as in you make one. It's a direct representation, so you can't reproduce it over and over again. You can do that by placing the object again and again, but each one will be a little bit different, a little bit unique. So a lot of artists have been using photograms over the years to make really fascinating, wonderful stuff. And I just pulled up a couple little examples to show you. So this is an artist named Caleb Carr who does direct photograms of stuff he finds out in the desert, essentially. So a bat, that's a dead bat that he put onto a photographic paper on the left, and the talons of a bird that are mostly decomposed on the right. A set of flowers that someone else put onto a paper. So you get, when you have a slightly more translucent or a more detailed object, you can get really interesting tones coming through the object onto the paper. Feathers are wonderful things. Ferns, everyone loves to make photographs of ferns because they're just so beautiful and so detailed and particular in that way. So these are cyanotype ones. The earlier ones were silver based. These are cyanotype photographs. And then some people go sort of crazy in terms of photographs. This is a guy named Adam Foos. He does color photograms with a very special color paper. And for a while, he was putting his baby on top of the paper and flashing his baby with light. So his baby there is sitting in a very shallow pool of water, and the flash freezes the baby and makes a photogram there. So these, as you can imagine, are the size of a baby. They're fairly large photographs. So some people work incredibly large with them. Some other ones that he did are these involving snakes. So he made wonderful photograms freezing the motion of snakes in water. So today we will be making photograms with our cloth. So you can pause this video right now and go find the bucket that I'm talking about, find the sun, and get your bag ready to go. And when we come back, I will be doing the first exposures. All right, good morning. We're going to look at the things that came in your bag right now and go over everything that you'll need to make your first exposure. Before we get to that, though, I'd like to introduce my assistant for this week. Can you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Kapula, and I am 6 years old.
This is Kala. She's my daughter. She's in kindergarten, and she has done a lot of cyanotypes in her life, so she'll be helping us out with all of these. So before we get started then, let's look at what came in the bag for you. So Kala, can you start to open this up?
Yeah.
So you are going to have a pile of construction paper, black construction paper. We'll hold this up here, which we'll be cutting stuff out of later, but let's just put that to the side right now. You're going to have a piece of transparency material, probably comes with a backing. We'll also be using this later, so let's put that to the side. A dry erase marker, it's for the transparency later. All right. Let's pull out the big thing. All right, okay, pulling that out. Yeah. So the biggest and heaviest thing in there is a sheet of plexiglass. Some of you just have plain plexi, and some of you have plexi that has a covering on it. So pull that out, and you can go ahead and peel off the covering to it. We'll get to that in a little bit later. And then finally, the most important thing in here. Here is a black plastic bag with a sheet of paper on it that says, "Please do not open in daylight." By that I mean sunlight. You can look at this if you are at night, or if you are in a bathroom with not much in the way of window light. You could take a peek inside, but really you want to minimize opening up this bag as much as possible. Inside of this is the cyanotype material, which is sensitive to UV light, which is light from the sun. And finally, a pair of scissors. All right, So that's what I gave to you. Now you need to go out and find a couple things to get ready. First off, you need to find a Tupperware or a bucket or something that you can put water in and fill it up with water. Fill it up and put it into a shady place. It can be inside or it can just be outside in the shade. That's totally acceptable. The second thing we're going to find is something to make a photogram out of. So we looked at what photograms are. Kyla, what did you find here? Can you show these and pull out some things and show them to them?
Two flowers, one without a stem and one with a stem.
So we've got two pretty yellow flowers. We use them. And then what else is in here?
Dandelions.
Okay. So we got a bunch of dandelions. So I would say try to find maybe one or two fairly large things. By large, I mean, about this big. And then a bunch of smaller stuff as well. You want it to be fairly flat, or at least soft. Rocks aren't going to really work because we have to be able to put it underneath the plexiglass. And then we will go about making an exposure. So once you've got all those things, you can pause the video right now and pull those together. And then right after the video restarts, Katla and I will go outside and start making an exposure together and process it. All right, so the one thing I forgot to mention is that you want a large piece of cardboard or wood or something to put everything on. All right, so Katla is gonna get started right now. She's gonna open it up and very quickly pull out one of the sheets of cyanotype paper. So this is one of the papers that is a white paper with cyanotype solution on it, and she's gonna start to build her, her photogram. The white paper with the cyanotype is the larger, thicker bundle. There should be 9 or 10 of those sheets in there. As you can see, it's sort of a greenish color, and you can do this in the shade again. You want to do this in the shade of your body or the actual shade inside. This is the beauty of having a piece of cardboard like this. It allows you a little bit more time. And what we're going to do is we're going to build like a little sandwich, a little package, and then walk it outside and put it into direct sunlight where it's going to sit for about 10 minutes. So as soon as we place it, I'll stop this video again, and you can pause it and set a timer for 10 minutes. And then while that 10 minutes is going, maybe you can watch the rest of the video and watch us process it so that you can get the processing done yourself. So Katla's made a nice complex little thing there. Looks beautiful and yellow. This is going to turn out to be blue and white in the end. All right, let's grab the plexi and put it on top. Now, yeah, that's okay. You pick the whole thing up, and we're gonna walk outside with our little sandwich of cyanotypes. Let's go find a nice sunny spot over here, okay? Maybe right on the grass right there. You wanna find a spot, all right, and step away. You wanna find a spot where the shade is not gonna move, where it's not gonna become shady during the exposure, and it has nice, perfect, beautiful sunlight. If it's a cloudy day, it's going to be a much longer exposure. So on a sunny day, we'll do about 10 minutes. On a heavy cloudy day, maybe 20 minutes. Little bit of cloud, maybe somewhere in between. So I'm going to stop this video now, and when we come back, we will process it after 10 minutes. All right, the timer has gone off for 10 minutes on this. What you're seeing is a little bit interesting here, because if you look right around there, some water came out of the flower. And whenever water hits the cyanotype material, it sort of pre-processes it, because that's how you process cyanotype, by just dunking it in water. So 2 things here. It's sort of interesting to have water come out of a plant like that, but also make sure your hands are dry whenever you handle the dry cloth. You really don't want to have water on your hands. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna pick up this entire thing and walk it over to where we've got our water bath ready to go to process it. So Katla, if you could grab the whole thing.
This?
Yep, get that whole thing and let's walk it over to here. I have the water bath set up in some shade over here, so we're gonna put it down next to it. And Katla's gonna pull it apart. Before we pull it apart, let's look at it real quick. What we're looking at here is called a latent image. This means that this is an image pre-processing. And as you see, the areas where the sun hit, it stayed a blue color, but the areas where the sun didn't hit, it sort of went to this yellow color. And that's just sort of showing us what's gonna happen. The whole thing is going to invert as soon as we put it into the water. And this is where the water has hit it already. So Katla's gonna take this thing and basically just crumple it up and stick it into the water. That's the beauty of cloth, is that it just can be crumpled up and used in almost any size water. So you're gonna want to have it in the water, move it around until the yellow stops coming out of it. And so what I'll do is just sort of crumple it up and leave it there. You can leave it. And as you see, the water turns yellow. This will stain your clothes, this yellow, so you want to be a little careful with it. Wash your hands after using it, all that sort of stuff. Don't drink the water, obviously, but it's not dangerous in any way. So we've got it going here. Let's pull it out. Let me grab this guy. We're going to pull it out. We're going to give it a squeeze, and we'll give a look at it. So Kylie, you want to grab it and spread it out on the grass over here.
Which way is the top? I think this.
There we go, and this is the image. So, as you can see, I probably overexposed it a little bit, meaning in the areas that should be white, they went a little bit purple, but the other areas went to a nice white color. So 10 minutes might have been a little bit too much time, but also I think it's all the liquid in there sort of pre-processed it a little bit. So a drier thing and maybe 8 or 9 minutes might have been the perfect solution. All right, so what we're gonna do is you're gonna make at least 2 exposures today with objects, 2 photograms with objects, and then we will look at them at the beginning of the next video and move on to something else, move on to slightly more complicated images. All right, that's it for today.